And one of the things that we want to talk about, that people have been discussing, venture capital. Just tell us a little bit about a lot of money, a lot of discussions about where this is going to be going. Tell us about it.
Well, I mean, venture capital money is really what gets a lot of small businesses up and going. You'll have the initial idea, the initial groundwork, but then if you're going to go forward, you've got to be able to fund it. And the venture capital groups that are out there across the country will pour, I mean, it's highly risky stuff most of the time, but they're looking for big returns. They know they're going to lose a bunch of times, but when they win really, really big, and they are always looking for opportunities. VC firms are out there. The interesting thing about it, though, is that with all of the stuff that we've got going on, with the technology stuff that we're pushing in Virginia, we only get about 1% of the venture capital money. And so this year, one of the bills that's passed out, and we'll see where the governor goes with this, but is Nick Rush's bill on venture capital that just basically says if you're a Virginia venture capital firm and you're investing venture capital money in Virginia and you hit it really, really big, we're not going to tax you on the growth and the return on that. So we want the money coming here. And that sounds really remarkable. You're thinking in terms of a 5% corporate tax for Virginia businesses, and on the growth of that, or a 5% capital gains tax, whichever way you're going to be looking at that and the way that it gets structured, we'd be able to let them come here, establish the business here, invest in the business here, and if you win big, we're going to leave you alone. But you think in terms of what that could do for Virginia and the amount of business that could grow. And the great thing about it is it doesn't really cost us anything because
it's not here now.
It's not here now. And so, but at the same time it would grow things because even though we wouldn't be taxing that, the amount of growth that we would get from the jobs that were created and whatever products were sold and everything going forward from there could be a huge boon to the economy in a lot of ways. And of course, the state would ultimately get more revenue out of that as well. But we'd have the availability for a lot of jobs. That was an exciting bill. I was a co-patron on that one with Nick, and just a great idea. And I'm hopeful that will move forward and have some impact.
And that would be for next session?
It's passed.
It has passed.
It's at the governor's desk now. We're waiting on him. And so if he signs it, then it would go into effect July 1.
That's a good thing. That's good for business.
That's very good.
One of the things that Lynda and I were discussing is sometimes we hear the conversation about, compared to other places in Virginia, sometimes connecting physically, even just transportation for people to get here. Sometimes there could be a hesitation for some businesses. I mean, when we talk about Lynchburg, there's not even a direct highway or an interstate to Lynchburg. There's been discussions about funding for I-73. We know that Roanoke-Blacksburg Regional Airport, I believe they just announced an additional direct flight to Dulles daily. We've got Amtrak returning in a few months. Tell me how important these type of investments are when it comes to business.
This is critical. This is absolutely critical. If people can't move around, they're not going to be here. I have, with the airport, the additional flights and the addition of Amtrak and ways to get that out of here, people don't really, I think, sometimes appreciate how much of a problem it is if you're here on one of those days when it's fine and you can't fly out and you can't get to another airport easily. But Amtrak will facilitate one more way to get in and out of here. I-73, we don't have a direct corridor through here aside from 81. This would double that up. You'd be able to get a lot more things and connect us in better with that. That ultimately would come from basically the Canadian border all the way down to, I think, to Myrtle Beach in South Carolina. So you'd be able to have a lot more movement of goods and services. And anytime that can happen through our area, there's always growth. And if you can make that happen to where you would then have a connection between two major interstates that would be here, that also just expands the opportunity for the whole area.
Well, and I think for small business, especially in this region, what we're doing is that we start here, and then the next logical market is Richmond, and then the next logical market is Washington, so that Amtrak thing. And I know, Sam, we were talking at break about something that was happening in the legislature about small business that you were working on. What is that looking like?
Well, I think, so the flights in and out of Roanoke, I think we hear that a lot as far as it being an issue. And it's going to, there are lots of great things with Amtrak, some additional flights, but we're going to have to, I think, be more innovative as we move forward. There are actually programs where they're kind of Uberizing flying, and we are going to have to be proactive and I've talked to the airport authority about this, in trying to bring some of that Uberization of flights in and out of Roanoke. And if we can go to some of these folks who are jet smarter, and there's a couple of others, and say, hey, we will even help subsidize at the beginning or guarantee flights, guarantee seats on your flight. That way we can ensure that there's even a private industry that's growing in addition to some of the commercial industry that's happening. But
Is that gonna help with it? I know there was a big movement, like in business, of going west. So there seems to be a lot of ways for us to go east and north and Chicago, Atlanta. But oh my gosh, if you're a business person trying to go to Arizona, like you better book 2 days. Because it's the real challenge. So is some of that Uberization of flights, is that also to try to help that, or is that a totally separate issue?
The top flight, the top destination that we don't go to out of Roanoke is Dallas. And so people would think that, but we connect everywhere to get to Dallas.
Sure.
So that's one of the times. So imagine if you had a small private chartered plane that was regularly flying to a place like Dallas. I think you have yet another option. But there are business flyers who would definitely take advantage of that.
Well, plus Dallas is a hub itself, and so getting from there to other places, and you're not limited to just, it just puts us in connection with one more major hub. The other one that is the right closely behind Dallas is Denver. A lot of people end up going to Denver.
Right.
And again, you've got a hub situation there, so it would just facilitate getting where you needed to go a lot easier if we could get some of those direct lines.
Well, and one of the challenges that we've had, especially in the small business community, and as our businesses are growing, I, for myself, trying to fly out of Roanoke is a mess. I mean, connecting before you can go anywhere else is a challenge, and I know this is a conversation that has lasted much longer before I probably even came to the U.S., but between expanding the Roanoke Airport, which never happened, and now, regardless of what avenues we're doing to be able to get people in and out, it can only benefit the small business community. So I'm very thankful that you guys have worked to make that a reality.
Well, and also, even from a tourism standpoint, getting in and out of here, there are conferences and conventions. We have such a great area to show off. I mean, people come here and they fall completely in love with it. They want to come back, and you look frequently through the tourism side of things, and the whole push a few years ago when we were converting everything over to Virginia's Blue Ridge as the branding for the whole area. A big part of that is economic development. To be able to get people in and out of here, though, is critically important. If you don't have a way to get here, there are conferences and conventions that we have the physical plant to be able to host, but we don't have the way to get the attendees in and out of here efficiently, and so it holds us down. So.
Yeah, and I think that's the real point, is because people that don't have to travel all the time like we do really wouldn't understand. Yes, we have an airport, we have a train, but it's the efficiency of it, because it costs a lot of money as a business person. If you have to stay overnight somewhere and add a whole nother day on, that's a day of productivity that you can't have here in Roanoke because you had to be away for another day.
Well, consolidation of the airline industry has really hurt markets like ours, and we're going to have to be really aggressive and proactive as far as trying to figure out different transportation avenues.
Baraka, we spoke during the quick break before we got started. One of the questions that you had and the concerns, the Roanoke Valley is known, and we've done stories, it's something that we've talked about, it's just the welcoming of different people to the area. And when we're talking about immigrants, and even how much immigrants have contributed business-wise to the Roanoke Valley. Tell us a little bit about your concerns, just with the political atmosphere, the things going on in D.C., down in North Carolina. I mean, it's, as a business owner, what's going on is concerning to you.
Well, I think when we're having this conversation, it's really important that we strive to remove the politics or the party lines of the political chatter, and really focus on how our communities are being impacted. And then each party can decide how we achieve the desired outcome. But within my own organization, I know the challenge is the fear that people are dealing with. Whether it's the interpreters that are obviously working legally, because my organization only employs folks that are legally allowed to work in the United States, but their families and folks overseas that they may visit. For instance, with one of the latest government guidelines that came out of Washington, it caused some of our interpreters that were visiting internationally to not be allowed to return for a period of time. And so when things like that happen, as we again adjust to the change, it is important that, the folks that are making or supporting political initiatives like that, that they be able to reassure our communities, regardless of what the community happens to be in the U.S. I'm just thankful to be sitting across these guys today. But how do we address the fear? Whether it's family members, whether it's the people, in my organization, we are serving folks with limited English proficiency, or the deaf and hard of hearing. So how do we go about addressing the fear that the change in Washington has caused, regardless of what political line we're seeing?
And as a child of immigrants myself, growing up here, living the American dream, I see it as well. So, but I think it's important for all sides to appreciate that there are many different interests, and security interests need to be taken into account. People think about these things, and so we can't ignore any interest that's out there. And so, we're a great country for a reason, and we just never want to forget that.
Well, and I think it's important just to understand that there's current realities, right? So you've got this political stuff going on, and you've got very different points of view, but at the end of the day, there's employers that have employees that do have fears, and that's a current reality. And I think during this transition, we all just need to work together to be able to be as transparent as possible, so that we understand what might be happening at a state level, because that's the only thing you guys can control, right? And be a part of, and just so that everybody can understand, as business people, we hire very diverse workforces now. And so when we're not clear about what's going to happen to any of them, it causes uncertainty, and uncertainty is never ever good for business.
Correct.
We like consistency. We
and
like
where
sure.
where I was going with that is that regardless of what position or what political line you happen to be on, I think that it is important for people to hear, especially you two, that are representatives of the communities right here within the Southwest Virginia, that what is your stand on reinforcing the belief that if you are working hard and contributing to the community, and certainly not committing any crime, that you shouldn't be living in fear every single day? There certainly has to be a measure of reassurance that can be provided from you guys. That makes sense. That's what I'm asking.
Well, it's interesting too, because so much of what dealing with this issue, and both sides of the aisle are guilty to a certain degree of this, is saying outrageous things about what the other one just said. And most of what you've heard about that particular issue, most of what has ginned up the fear, I think, in people, which is absolutely real and palpable. But most of it is just the complete hyperbole from everyone. And we've got to just sort of calm down and get everybody to understand that if you'll just turn the TV off, we're in a TV studio, so
Don't turn off WFXR.
But at
Facebook
some
Live,
point
Facebook
during the day, you need to turn all of this stuff off.
Sure.
And talk to each other and just be in the community and understand the sky is not falling. The police are not banging on the door. You can still breathe. Everything is okay. And it's going to continue to be okay as long as everybody keeps their head. And when you're dealing in an era where so much of the information politically is being stirred around to keep people entertained and
I think we'd all agree with
energized.
that.
That's not
I don't think there's any debate about that.
That's not supposed to be the point. And in so much as we did, one of the things that makes the Virginia legislature and any of the part-time legislatures unique is that we go and do what we've got to do, and we don't have time for all of that. because we've got to get it done. This year was a short session year. We had 46 days, start to finish, to get it all done.
It was quick.
You don't have time to waste time with all the other things there. And then all of us leave and go home and go back to work and earn our living, because there's not anybody that does the job of being a state delegate or a state senator that, you're not living on that. Because it doesn't pay enough to live. This is not the full-time job. We've got to come back here and get back to work. And, perhaps if we could sort of put things in a better perspective, go a long way.
Absolutely. We're going to talk about a few more business questions, and just, well, we got these guys here. If you have any questions, you can ask them on Facebook Live. We'll be right back in a few minutes.